Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller Pilates YouTube live video broadcast out to you because you're watching, and so thank you for that. And it's meant for anyone that's a Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliate or a Core New Course student interested in surviving as a Pilates instructor, because this broadcast is geared toward comments to hopefully help you survive as a Pilates instructor in whatever time and era you may be teaching this in. So, I missed the connection. I just came from Facebook, where I told my audience there that I was going to speak about these three topics, because on Facebook you can put text before to the broadcast, and my history has been to then talk about the titles in the text as the outline to the broadcast. Here in YouTube, it's just like going live, and anybody that's subscribed to my site or that broadcast gets it. And the advantage is that it's a bigger audience and you have more control over the recording. So in your exploration of recording and teaching and reaching out what you profess, right? Consider the scope of your audience and the control of your media. Take that into consideration. All right, so it seems I didn't know what I wanted to talk about today. I mean, I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't know how to reduce them to a title. And the number one title over on my Facebook post about this live broadcast in YouTube is that order matters. Order matters. And by that I mean the order of the exercises, of Joe's choreography. And that's a personal opinion, because I think it's a much more popular opinion that there is necessarily no order, and that there are only exercises within the Pilates method. And those exercises are meant to be learned and then creatively dealt with and chosen from by the skill and depth and art of the instructor. I don't know. The order matters. To me, the order matters. There we go. Now we're talking nitty-gritty. To me, in my opinion, the order matters because the order points to pattern. And pattern points to what the pattern is made of and how it happens within a time frame, all of that good stuff. In terms of the order of the mat work of Joseph Pilates, the order in terms of loading, for instance, meaning the body bearing its weight, is a progressive loading. And you see it in the one-leg stretch followed by the two-leg stretch. And that then has backfilled by the fact that I think it fits, after the fact of Joe, into scissors and double-leg lower lift, because it's the same two exercises done with load further away from center. So your loading is coming from the length of your leg, the length of that lever, and you have to control the length of it further away from center. And so you see that pattern repeated throughout the rest of the mat, and then on the reformer and throughout, where you start flat on your back and you end up standing up and walking away, is the order of the mat. And loading is part of that, or is all of that. If you take the fact that you're flat on your back and there's no load if you're at ease, and then standing straight up, you're handling that somehow to be able to walk away. run away, skip away, fly away, jump away, right? To be embodied in your will, which is a great thing to have as a human being. And so the order matters, and it matters for a reason, but it only matters for a reason if you know the reason. And then it becomes a choice of how to respond to that. That can be the most positive response you can manage. Like on Instagram, sometimes I say something positive, and if there's something to do next time, as if I were teaching, what would I do next time? I had a hashtag next time to leave my 2 cents on the subject, without hopefully appearing judgmental, because all it is about sensing, one versus another, the weight of gravity. And so, number 3 is catch-22, and it's about number 1, and number 2 really is, as a Pilates instructor, the best I can do is make a good profession of my view of things, taking the stimulation from others and sharing what I see there in my point of view. That's all you can do. That's all anybody can do, right? As human beings, we have simulations running from our brains about what it's like out there in reality. And the more we can have our simulation match up with what's really out there, we survive and we prosper and we have fun and we experience joy, right? Fundamental things. So when the number 1 title, the title number 1 is Order Matters. When I see fundamental order presented out of sequence at all, when I see fundamental sequence out of order, it pains me because it's showing an illustration of sequence that is contradictory to or not harmonic with the original order that Joe's choreography represents, especially in the area of loading and the order that the body takes on loading. And if you look at the whole body of work and you decide, well, order matters, then to what extent does it matter? And it brings me to realizing that in the blue pill Pilates world, a reference from the Matrix, and my use of the analogy of blue pill and red pill, and the fact that blue pill is one world, and when you ask why, that's the one thing that the blue pill world doesn't really deal with. And so discussing why Pilates is what it is the red pill world of Pilates, because it looks at why. And so here's the point I'm trying to make as an instructor, is to recognize the predominant point of view is that Pilates are just exercises, and presented that way. And then to look one level deeper as if you want to know why. If you don't want to know why, just go on with the world as you love it and like it, and embrace it for all that you like and enjoy about it. The point being, though, that, is there a point? Order matters is the point I'm trying to make. And it pains me to see the order misrepresented. in some ways it leaves an impression that keeps on giving, that undermines the perception of the actual sequentiality of the method. Oh, again, the catch-22, Michael, what's the catch-22? The catch-22 is this: if your presumption of power and legitimacy and authority is not based on anything having to do with why it is what it is, that why only interferes with the way that you're embracing Pilates, however that is, and whatever that is, whether it's to enjoy it or to make money or to teach it or to incorporate it into other things, on any level. The hard transition coming for the Pilates community is one where the aristocracy realizes that Pilates has an essence of its own that people are recognizing whether they admit it or not. And so at some point in time, however many centuries that will take, but there will be an obvious enough consensus of it, the essence within it, that people basing their legitimacy on who they know and how they learned and where they learned from, on that kind of template, will merely shift over and say, yeah, that's true, and here's how my way is better than even that, which is fine. And to the extent, in my opinion, to the extent that wherever they take that idea within Joe's original work, it will be their expression of themselves. All the better. Better your expression of yourself. As a Pilates instructor, to survive, you have to understand, I think it helps to understand you live in a world where those who assume superiority cannot acknowledge the fact that there's sequence and order. Because as soon as you acknowledge there's order, in some way, that begs the question, well, what's the order and why is that the order? And you give away all of this subjective authority and power and abstraction in saying what is what. Okay? To me, Michael Miller, and to Michael Miller Pilates, it's all based on the order of the sequence and Joe's definition and his promise, which is just three things. And yet it all fits, I think. It makes sense. And what matters is that it makes sense to you. So let's go on to number 2. Number 2 is lactic acid buildup is real. Because it's very difficult to interact on social media without coming across as either totally negative or totally positive. Yeah, bullying comes to mind though. But I don't know that I would indulge in or condone bullying. And to the extent in my world of Pilates and my exposure to it, rather than directly confront, I found great solace and peace from merely coming here to broadcast live or to make a recording and to try to say what I have to say in a positive way that deepens understanding, illuminates what's there, I think, for you to do with what you want. Excellent. Number 2, lactic acid is real. Buildup is real. Lactic acid buildup is real. The comment that came in on a comment that I made about order and sequence took us then to loading. Well, at loading, and then repetitions, most notably repetitions. And see, repetitions is an invasion into Pilates, I think, primarily from the fitness culture that does reps of 10, and that everything is reps of 10. And yet the history that I'm aware of has fewer reps. Like 5 to 8 are reps. And look at Joe's book as an example of reps. And yet the reps that he's talking about get taken to 8 or to 10. And so my question would be, or point of understanding would be, why does it become 10? And there, a presumption of point or target being, well, 10 reps, it's harder because you're doing more reps. And so that makes the number of reps be the value in the exercise, the reps of the exercise. And that totally misses the point that the reps are subservient to or secondary to the development of control of that exercise through the course of the reps. And 10 is rarely the case of the number of reps needed, my opinion, to get to the peak of your control in that exercise. And you get to the peak of that control longer before 10, and in that case, you're doing work that's just doing, it's more loading. You're in to me, a Pilates mat sequence is a foot race to the flag. It's something you neither rush for nor dally in. To me, you're after the performance of each exercise to the best of your ability over the number of reps that you need to recognize your ability, your focus, your concentration has peaked, and you're falling off of that. And to see a number of reps that is beyond a norm of what I think is natural. See, the point is number of reps and how many reps and why reps at all. Why not just do one? There you go. Okay. Why not just do one rep of every exercise? Because upon each repetition, in the beginning, I think there's an improvement in your control, and you try to make that control as you try to take that control as deep as you can over the number of reps that you're doing, but it's having reached your focal point of effort in doing the exercise that brings you to the finish, not a set count of 10, especially because 10 is a really long number. So in terms of judge for yourself, right, I would say, okay, when it comes to hundreds, you know you're after 100 beats. And really, for me, it takes 100 reps, 100 breaths. It takes me 100 beats to actually get into that position where I'm ready to do, on a reformer, the rollover. Okay? But on many reps, my target is 3, not 5 or 8. And the reps are a beginning rep that explores the exercise, a middle rep that you do with as much control and deliberateness that you can manage, and a third rep for art that allows you more intuitive and less intellectual interpretation of the effort. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then the reps expand if I didn't get enough of that particular phase of the reps that I usually engage in, their quality or their nature. What I think is fascinating is when a person's doing reps and they're a beginner and I'm just telling them what to do and they're doing fine, and I see that their concentration has peaked and has surfaced. They've come out of their cave. They've surfaced from their deep dive, right? And both of those locations had to do with listening to, their own sensation. I lost my train of thought. They come back from that place of being connected in that way. Thank you for waiting. I'm old. If consciousness percolates, and sometimes the train goes right off the tracks, but usually the percolation brings me back on track. And I found the track again, and then lost it again because I talked about the track. See, it percolates, so I don't get panicked about it. And what I was saying is that when I ask my students, all right, was the last rep your best rep, or was the rep before that better or worse? And they'll know. Well, the one before the last one I felt I was best at, or actually sometimes they'll say, and quite appropriately so, that it was the one before that was their best effort. Which to me makes a lot of sense, because I would have needed to seen another rep to know that the peak had occurred, and then see the next rep to know it wasn't going to go back uphill again, so it's time for me to intervene and say enough. But as an instructor, I'm empowering them, letting them know that over the course of their reps, they're seeking to do it as ideally as they can. And that when they do it so well that they anticipate the performance of the next one, it's over. Do you understand why? It's over because anticipation of the future has shown up and interfered with participation in the moment. And so the anticipation, in my experience, tinges the quality of the turnout, because your mind is out ahead of the reality that you're in. So it's time to take your anticipation for the next one and transition into the next exercise, which you have, of course, already figured out in your head, so that when you reach your peak repetition, you know what comes next. You figured it out, but as you got started, if not beforehand, but in starting the exercise and the repetitions, you figure out, okay, what's next? And then you do the repetitions as deeply as you can until you lose your focus. And that's not a number, and it's not the same number every time, right? So as an instructor, you recognize the commodification of what is not understood by virtue of presumption that you can do that, And you can. It just is ulterior to, or it seems ulterior to, what you know about the ideal within the work. And really, rather, you can't deny a person their right to suffer, and to some extent, it's tough not to be a rebel or not to say, oh, but you have it wrong, or you're not looking at it this way, or this way is better, or you're just completely ignoring. Pilates exercises are words. Words. And words have their own meaning, right? And Pilates exercises are words, and they have their own meaning, and there is a whole lot of 10,000 opinions about what the meaning is of each of those exercises. But you cross a threshold of political and monetary intrigue when you point out that there's sequence involved, and because there's sequence involved, there's a reason why that sequence exists. So, what is the ideal? That the best I can say it, and the best I've tried to express it for the last 509 days of broadcasting. I've been so lucky to broadcast out to an audience and have that audience be Facebook and be able to see people who are watching and get thumbs up. This medium is colder, and it exposes me to more ridicule and derision. Derision? It's a good word, I just don't think I pronounced it right. Which takes me back to Pilates is more than exercises. See, and and so, for sure, if you understand and have Cole, if you understand and can do Joe's mat, you know that order, right? Right? That's an authority all its own. And anybody that bridges that authority, I don't care who they are, or who they know, or who they knew, right? If they think they can arbitrarily, they can just arbitrarily change anything they want to. But the order that Joe put them in is for a reason. And if you want to survive as a Pilates instructor, especially when there are other Michael Miller Pilates instructors out there, that even if you hate me or you hate the whole notion of Pilates not being what you want it to be, you owe it to your survival to at least know that this world is out there, and the point of view is very simple. It's easy to grasp intellectually, and it's easy to grasp sensationally, and it totally welcomes participation of our capacity as humans to observe, our observer, our capacity to concentrate. And so, I am so fascinated from my view of the original work of Joseph Pilates. And that can mean just his book. The rest of his material, as much as you can get, substantiates the book. But you don't need anything more than the book to have the sequence and to have the definition and the promise. So the embodiment of the method is there something you develop straight from Joseph Pilates to you, and then everything else that you get in terms of who you study with and what they can contribute from first hand or second hand or third hand or nth hand degree, right? I don't know how to work that. It's a catch-22 to know that Pilates has an essence of its own in an industry and an environment where that whole point of view, I think, is ignored, shunned, or ignored and shunned is good. Because why? Because if there's a why, it infringes upon what you can make of it all on your own. And that's definitely inconvenient. That's an inconvenient truth. But see, if you're going to survive to what I think is, well, look around, already has happened. You know, if I'm going to go in and ask for a job teaching Pilates, I mean, I could mention a lot more names that I've studied with, many of whom are dead now, and claim more aristocratic authority than a large percentage of the people teaching Pilates. So on an aristocratic basis, I could go claim that I do something and teach Pilates, but the basis of what I'm going to bring to the table is my understanding of Joe's original work and the meaning that I have ascribed to it through my brand of Pilates. And it's been a real treat to be free enough to not only make the conceptualization throughout my entire life and share it as well as I could, as clearly as I could, but to still be doing it, and now here on YouTube Live, where it's live straight from my phone, very easy to deliver, and it's in the moment because it's right now, and I will have done my best to act as a Pilates teacher, because I'm asking you to think, and in your thinking and how to survive as a Pilates instructor. So, once you recognize how special what you know is, it's special because not many people know about this point of view, and not many people, even in knowing about it, understand it or embrace it. And so I think that takes us, to an understanding that those that have an awareness of Michael Miller Pilates will understand things in ways and at depths that others, no matter who they are, even if you're watching and you knew Joe, I'm so pleased and grateful for your observation. And I would love to ask you questions until you shoo me away, because I would stop with all kinds of questions. But I'm absolutely sure in my own perspective, my own simulation, that nothing you're going to tell me is going to alter significantly what I already understand about his work just from his work. And I hope that's true of me to you as an artist and a contributor of my energy into the world. I hope that's true. It's not fair, really. there was a diving contest at a resort pool where I was vacationing, and those participating made dives that showed no expertise or had no expertise in diving. And I had some, and I won the competition because there wasn't anybody else in my level of capacity to do that. And it was embarrassing in a way, and it made me feel guilty. So, guilty? Maybe. So I went to the top of the building and made a dive in the pool and almost killed myself because the bottom came up so fast that if my hands hadn't braced, I would have probably. And the point to that is perspective and depth, and okay, there's what I want to say. It takes a lot as a Pilates instructor, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, perhaps unnoticed, and doesn't stick out, but to walk among kings and fools as a Pilates instructor. And you don't want to obviously stick out and embarrass others. And you don't want to obviously stick out in ways that put you at risk. That's all I'm saying. And it's easy to do. Either one. And so I think what I'm saying is take heart in teaching what you know to those, to your tribe. And like I try to take whatever I see in social media and move most of my commentary and input to here. Because this is me talking to you, an interested party that's listening and wants to listen about my observations of what's out there, without having to make that observation there rather than here, right? So, recognize the catch-22. Oh, and words. See, and I've talked words and words and words. Michael Miller Pilates is the grammar. There's words and there's grammar. And when it stands out when there's a fundamental breach of grammar, in the sense that the sequence of the mat is presented out of order. For whatever reason, I don't care why, and I don't care what the intention was. And it may feel great. For wherever you took it to, you took it away from the source. That's all I'm saying. And in so doing, it lacks what could have been a very big harmonic resonance to the rest of the work. And that's the point, I think, as an instructor, to recognize that the Pilates choreography, that sequence, is out there in the culture. And you don't even need to know the language if you know the sequence to conduct the exercises in a flow that achieves the target that you're after. And you know the target, right? It's experience. The experience. There was something else I thought. And see, I'm always throwing this away before it's time. Mr. Bloomberg taught me never to tear anything up because you may want what you throw away. Oh, there it was. Here it is. All right. Doing Pilates is like singing the national anthem. Your national anthem. That leads me to interesting things, because Pilates is its own national anthem, because it has its own words and its own sequence. It has its own exercises and its own order. And that order happens in a tempo that draws the comparison tighter to the song. Okay? So my comparison is, you know the words, you know the order they're in, and you know the timing of the delivery. And all of those are involved in performing the choreography of Joseph Pilates, his mat work, that sequence. And so that's grammar. That's syntax. And the grammar, for one thing, is loading, because we're talking about loading and order, and how the sequence of the mat is an embodiment of fundamentally controlling the load of the body as it goes from ease to standing. And in that regard, standing means tension for me, because standing is what you need to be, is what your muscles produce in order to hold your position in space. So that's good, don't you think, in the way that Pilates is like the national anthem. And see, many people sing the national anthem. You know, you can't turn on the TV without hearing someone sing the national anthem, whatever country you're in. You're watching sports and that kind of thing, I think. And so you know the words, you know the order, and you know the way the music goes. You know the song. And to me, Pilates is the song, because you know the words, you know the order, and you know the pace at which they're supposed to be performed. And, you know, pace and timing goes all to breath and interaction and triggering instinct. And Pilates works and Pilates takes time. Favorite saying of a friend of mine, fellow teacher, instructor. And it's true, and one of the reasons it takes time is because there's so much of it that there is to absorb in your empowerment of an instructor. Just think, I'm one guy with just one point of view, and there's 9,999 other points of view. So I would say, in considering that, the reminder is that you only have, you politicians only point a knuckle, they never point a finger. You, there you go, you, an open hand. You Cornu, I haven't said much about my trademark. As Michael Miller, me, I think, I profess that I point to oppositional rotation between axes, and I say, profess that creates a tension between those two axes I have named, or I call, Cornu tension. And Cornu tension is a fact of physics, in that the body, the biology of the body, seeks to accomplish that tension in order to move through space, in order to survive. In order to survive, the tiger, right, in the jungle of gravity. It didn't make complete sense the way I signed it. Take what you know, as I said in previous broadcasts, and share what you know, but I would say share what you know to open ears, right, to those that you teach, and let those that you teach be your walking billboard, because they'll be the ones that understood you in the first place, and will say to others that they helped them understand, you helped them understand that there's a point to all this, and that your understanding of what matters and why, order matters, so I'm in the review of this. Number one was order matters. Your understanding of that will help you survive as a Pilates instructor. And to the extent you understand that the order matters for a reason, and that you understand the reason, all of that red pill Pilates world of why, right, will, maybe won't. It might add to your capacity as an instructor when you go to instruct Pilates. That's the reason I broadcast. So for everything you know from wherever else you learned it, and from everything that you learned from me, whether you admit it or not, hopefully that empowers you to survive as a Pilates instructor. And you want to be able to do, to me it's like making a thumbprint, an impression, because it is making an impression, your energy on the hologram of existence as we understand it. That fingerprint, can be sloppy and messy and quick, or it can be clean and well formed. And my goal is to make my presentation to you as well formed as I can in the moment of the broadcast. But I do it with only the preparation of notes from the workout that preceded leading into this, and let go of it just as easily, because tomorrow's notes can be whatever they want to be within the context of broadcasting out to you because you're listening, you're watching, and to all my Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates and the Core New Course students who find this information facilitating in their effort to survive as a Pilates instructor. There's 213 days until the solstice. And it's getting cold, and it's time for Thanksgiving, and I give you thanks. I give you thanks for helping the impression that I seek to make here all the deeper by your observation of it, no matter when or how you come to it. I wish you health and happiness, because life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Add two and two. Think for yourself. Geist. Geist.